In this video, you will hear a very dedicated Swedish woman that has done what the world right now thinks is impossible. She has reduced her Parkinson's symptoms from pretty bad, limping, having tremor, having stiffness, being in a terrible state, to now 2 years later, where she is capable again to walk, having a good mood, and have only a few symptoms left. It is possible to reach these results, and maybe you can get some hints from this interview. If nothing else, you can find my Hope Shortcut course where I describe this in a lot more details, so there's a bigger chance for you to succeed as I unfold all these details on how to become better. How fast you'll become better, no one knows, because things takes time. It's a matter of your starting point and determination and how much time you have during a day. But you can get help, for example, from me and my service with one-to-one coaching. I'm sitting here with Anne Helvig. And you have a story in regard to Parkinson. Maybe start to present your story, your Parkinson story, from maybe a little before diagnosis. Why did you go to the doctor?
Yes, I have had symptoms for Parkinson for 10 years, but in the beginning I just ignored them. And I was a little bit shaking sometimes and a bit stiff, but I didn't care. I mean, I just continue as usual with my life. But then for 5 years ago, I suddenly become much worse in all symptoms. I mean, I was limped a lot when I walked, and my arms stopped to swing when I walked as well. And I had a lot of strange symptoms, but I ignored them anyway. But then before Christmas, one day before Christmas, I was package a Christmas gift, and then I cut myself in the finger, and I was bleeding a lot, so I had to go to the emergency. I mean, but then the doctor said, you have to go immediately Monday morning to your healthcare center, because otherwise you have MS or Parkinson. I said, we see that. It was so obvious for them, because I was shaking. I lay down on the bed, and I was shaking so much in my half body, so it was crazy. I was afraid of the wound as well, so it was a shock for me. It was a shock for me then, and then I visit a lot of doctors in the spring 2019, and it was obvious that it was Parkinson. Nothing to discuss. And in April then, I went to my neurologist, difficult word, and she said that, yes, you have Parkinson, and you're going to be much worse, so you know. And then I got into a real shock. I was shocked.
Did you get a DAT scan?
Yes, I did. I did that scan, and it was very severe loss of dopamine both sides of the brain. So it was very clear that I had Parkinson. And I had it for a while as well. But I got into this shock, and I was laying in my bed, and I was freezing, and I was shaking. I couldn't sleep. I was in a terrible condition, and and all the symptoms got worse. I mean, I thought, I can't stand this. I can't stand this. It's impossible for me to live on. I mean, I didn't want it. I couldn't live with that, having Parkinson and get worse. So I decided to Google around and see if there were any possibilities to get better, because the doctor said it's not going to get better, but I thought it can be a small chance that there are something you can do. And then I Googled around, and I noticed that you can't Google on get better from Parkinson. You just get you're not going to get better from Parkinson. That's the only thing you get when you Google. So you have to go down, deep down in the Google to see. Then I found some people that had some theories about actually getting better from Parkinson. And I studied them. Perhaps there were 5, 6 people. They have written books. I read all the books. I looked at their internet pages. I collected all the data. It was like my only chance, so I had to do it. I was so determined to find something that you can perhaps have some hope to get better, because otherwise I didn't want to continue anymore. I mean, it was
So you
terrible.
were sort of either I succeed in getting better, or were you thinking about ending your own life, or what?
Yes, actually, it was on life and death. It was on life and death for me. I never felt that before. It was like all the senses was sharpened. I mean, you have to survive. I wanted so much to survive and be healthy. I feel it in my whole body. And if there was a chance, I do whatever I need to do.
So
Nothing is too big.
you made yourself a promise, something with, I'll try out this.
I realized that it's a very difficult sickness, Parkinson, and there are no cure, and that's make it more difficult to solve. I mean, but I thought I give it 2 years because it's so difficult. Otherwise, I have said perhaps some months, but 2 years must be enough. And if I get just a little bit better, then I know it's working. And then I can continue, because then I can take the decision after 2 years. If I'm going to get worse, then I know what to do. I can't live with it.
But hopefully you didn't get to that point.
No,
How
because
much time did you use on the internet searching? Was it hours?
as I mean days, some days I couldn't sleep anyway. So I was just thinking about to get better, find everything in my power to have some hope. And then I did a list of 15 things I'm going to do. And that came very instinctively. It was very obvious for me that I must do this by myself. But I also wanted help from my family and so on. I needed support. I understand that also. I told all my relatives that this was very important for me. They might have to support me, but I'm going to do this by myself. And I realized there were a possibility that my inner stress in my life had got me sick, actually. I studied some books and home pages and got a grip of it, that I must observe my own thoughts and be more positive, and I must really believe that I can be healthy again. and that's the tricky part, I think, because when you're ill, you have to be very critical to yourself and understand that you really need a big change, a, a life change, actually. So I started immediately with
Was it
that.
something you read on these pages?
Yes, yes, and also it felt like it was the most important part, I think, because I could observe that when I was most afraid for the future and so on, then my Parkinson symptoms got worse. So I understood that I must calm down a lot and I must be having faith to heal.
Yeah. So
And that
how did you get that faith?
I I I don't know. Of course, I felt a bit sorry for myself, why me and so on. But I also felt some strange, I mean, love for myself. I wanted down inside me, I wanted to live and be healthy.
In my ears, it sounds like it's a big commitment you made, that you had to find out this in 2 years. So during the 2 years, you would do everything.
Yes, yes,
So you had to sort of commit to that.
yes. I did a lot of things, actually. I also promised myself that if I'm going to be better, I must help other and so on. It was very like a ritual almost. It was very dramatic, actually.
And that's what you're doing, making these interviews, is to spread the word that
Mhm.
you can become a lot better, and
Yes,
stress reduction is one of the most important ways.
it was. I also felt a bit excited, actually, also, because if I can do it, most people can't do it, I thought, because I saw on the internet.
I'm always interested in the small thoughts here. So I can see you started to realizing that when you were more stressed, you got more symptoms. When
Mm.
you were less stressed, you got less symptoms. And it was maybe even before you start doing all these things, just
Yeah.
by reading that this was the connection. Is that true? So just reading about it, you connected some of the dots, that
Mhm.
this is stress, and then you observed yourself. Yeah, it's correct. When I get scared, I have more symptoms. Is it like that?
Yes, and but I started to meditate as well and do a lot of things, and I noticed that it helped because I could, for some very short time, perhaps some seconds or minutes, get rid of my tremor. It was calmed down a bit, and then that was all I needed. Then I got excited.
Just a tiny reduction
Yes, tiny reduction.
was a proof enough for you.
Yes, it was. I was so happy. And then I realized I had to work with my body as well. I limped a lot, and I have two dogs, and I couldn't walk with them almost. It was very annoying not to be able to walk properly. I decided to do what was most difficult for me and do that a lot and think like I was healthy. So I walked and walked and walked and walked, and now I'm walking. I'm not limping. I mean, I fought it all the time. I swing my arm. I didn't swing my arm, but I tried to force to swing my arm, and I did it a lot. I mean, and after a couple of months, it started to happen something. My arm was swinging a little bit, and I cried of happiness. I mean, it worked. I think within a year, I didn't limp anymore. And my arm swing a lot more. So I don't know what's happened in my brain, but I think some new connection or something I created some new connection because I relearned how to walk again. And you have to be very determined because it's not a quick fix. You have to do it for a long time. But it worked. I haven't limped since that. Nothing. And my arm is perfect. That's where the fun started.
So I guess when you started right after diagnosis, you didn't notice your symptoms so much. It was
No.
maybe just a blur, but then you start to focus that sometimes the symptoms are bigger than other times, and then you sounds like you celebrated, yes, today I have a better arm swing, today I'm a little less stiff or something.
One thing you have to do, I think, is to really realize how bad condition you are in. So you have to take that in without feeling sorry for yourself, but you have to take it in. And this is the reality. I can't walk. Oh my God, I can't walk. This is terrible. I want to walk. You have to take that in, but then, because then you can do something about it. I took it in, really. I mean, in my heart,
Yeah.
how sad it was not to be able to walk.
So you create a burning platform, you would
Yes.
say, if it was a business. You have a burning platform, and then you
Yes.
need to do something to
Yes.
get off.
Then you have all the motivation you need. I could have walked for hours. I mean, it doesn't matter. I wanted to walk again, to be able to walk again. I wanted to have my life back, and it was so emotional for me. Emotional. It was not thinking, it was feeling.
Yeah. So I can hear that you said you had 2 years, and it was a matter of life or death.
Yes.
Here, and you created this burning platform.
Yes,
that
yes.
that this
Yes.
was serious. Nothing will, okay, I just let it happen, or not putting a positive plaster, but this was the real thing.
And if it's the real thing, you can do something about. I mean, you can do just to be a little bit better.
In that period where after you have studied on the internet and picked their brains on what to do, when you started to become active, how many hours did you use a day?
Several hours. I mean, 6-7 hours a day. I work out, I train my hands, I train to observe my own thoughts. I meditated twice a day, 1 hour, 2 hours a day, because I think I needed it actually. It was a lot of work, but it was easy to do. It was necessary, so it was very easy. It was not difficult for me to do it. I just did it.
So it was the highest priority for you.
Yes, it was my only priority.
Yeah. And that's a big difference, because I guess if people have an 8-hour job and it take maybe half a whole hour to go back and forth, then there's not a lot of time.
I had the time. I was at home for that moment.
But I think your quick result, it's due to the massive effort having this as your first priority. So how long time from you sort of started to get active to today?
How many years? Or
Yeah.
5 years now.
5 years now. Yeah.
Yes. And now I don't need to do all the things that I did in the beginning. Now I have it in my body. I have the feeling in my body, and I'm a total different person now than I used to be. I can have problems, but I don't take it so serious, because I know I can't do that. I can do things, but I don't think so much negative anymore.
So what you are describing, it's nearly a change in personality type.
Yes, absolutely. And I'm very honest also now. I did a lot of work also with old traumas I had from childhood. And I realized I had some traumas. And was stopped me from develop, I think. It took 2 years for me to get rid of the old traumas, actually. I didn't have contact with some relatives for 2 years. Now it's
Because
okay.
what?
Yeah, I realized I can never have someone to say, I'm sorry for that, what happened to you when you were little. I mean, I skipped that part. But I wanted to feel that I was not sad after talking to some relatives or so on. I didn't want them to impact me at all. And after
You stopped all of them.
no,
Some.
just some. And then when I felt that it was okay again, then I pick up the phone and call them, and I didn't feel sad anymore. It was fantastic. They didn't have a place in my system anymore.
So someone of your relatives that have teased you when you were a child, or
It was a trauma,
yeah.
but I accepted it and put it away. I mean, not bury it in my body, but just put it away. I think that was really important because it released a lot of energy when doing that. I think I have been feeling two feelings when I was younger. One is I'm also afraid. I'm afraid, and I'm lonely. But now I don't feel those feelings. I don't feel alone, and I'm not afraid, and I can do whatever I want. I released so much energy. I dare to do more things that I've never done before. I'm not afraid of anything. That's the biggest relief, I think.
So when I help people with this trauma reduction, I have a saying that you come closer and closer to your authentic self.
Exactly. So now I can say that every day when I wake up, I feel like a child for 7, 8 years, the first day in summer, I mean. Exactly. I feel so much joy that my stomach are aching almost. I feel so much joy. It's so much to do. I got my life back. I'm so happy.
That's amazing. What does your neurologist say?
I haven't met her for 5 years because first the corona, I mean, telephone just, then it's just recipes and so on. But this year, I think I was too healthy to meet some.
Has anyone been interesting in your story? Has your
No.
Yeah.
I feel that no one is interesting actually.
I find it interesting that no one is picking up. You said that there's not a lot of people that become better. And I replied, we don't know because no one is collecting. No one is asking the whole Parkinson community, how is your symptoms? Have you got worse? Have you got better? How is your medication? So we have no idea. We are kept in the dark because I've met a lot of people that are still on their first doses or have no symptoms. So we have no idea about this.
I met a Parkinson nurse instead. And she did a lot of tests on me. And the most I got 0. I mean, non-symptom for most of the time. I just have some stiffness in my foot and my hand. That's all. Nothing else. 5 years ago, I had tremor all day long, all night long, and it was so much that if I got upset, I had to sit on my hands because I couldn't just stand there. Oh, it was terrible. And I had tremor in my jaws, so my teeth just clapper. So what they say? Oh, so it was. Oh, it was very unpleasant. I mean, and when you were out with people, I had to say to them that I have Parkinson because otherwise they got nervous. I mean, they didn't want know what's happening to me if I got upset or if I was nervous. I didn't want to have L-Dopa dopamine. I didn't want it. I had it the first year, 500 milligram of Madopark every day, and my doctor said probably I need more. But I reduced it in a year by myself, not speaking to my doctor at all.
So
I
why
did
did you do that?
because I felt that it was very ups and downs all the time. It just worked for me 1 hour, and then I got worse. And then it was up and down, and I felt that it can't be good for the system to have this up and down all the time. And I needed more and more. It was something that was wrong with it for my body.
So what did you think?
I thought that the less meds, the better.
Yeah. So how did you dare going against your doctor?
Because I had to, because I wanted to get well again. I had to try to reduce L-Dopa at least. I have a full list of symptoms I had, and I don't feel anything at all about of stiffness or limping or fatigue or tense muscle in my neck, or I mean, and I don't feel weak, and I feel strong again, and I jump out of bed in the morning. I have no problem at all with nothing. I mean, I feel 100% healthy from Parkinson. Just the tremor is left.
Good.
So absolutely, I've been better,
And
and
how
I
much
know it.
have you reduced the tremor if you were at 100% at the time of diagnosis? How little of the tremors left now?
I think in a scale, perhaps I had 8. I mean, almost unbearable. If 10 was unbearable, 8 I had. Now I have perhaps between 0 and 2.
And not all the time.
And not all the time.
Good.
So it's a huge difference. And also if you look at the L-Dopa I reduced, I mean,
Yeah.
it's a lot. I mean, 500 milligram, and I couldn't walk for 5 years ago, but now I don't think about it even. No one can see that I have been sick.
What do your family and friends say to you?
Some say that you can't see that you have Parkinson. Are you sure you have had Parkinson?
Your doctor know it as well from your journal. You have
Yes.
had the scan, so they know it.
It's crystal clear that I had Parkinson, and I probably have it now, but I reduce all the symptoms, so almost.
And that's why you and yeah, I are sitting here talking about it, because we need to hear all the success stories.
Yes.
So it's not okay not to make the statistical work about this. So we need to tell that it's maybe, I don't know, 3% of people with Parkinson that become a lot better. And best guess, maybe 20% that is not getting worse, and then the rest are getting worse and worse. But we need to see these numbers.
Yes. I have written a bit a bit of my story in international Parkinson forums, and they are more happy to hear my story.
Yeah.
They,
I
they,
think also the time is working for this. So when I started 7 years ago, it was really, you couldn't say anything. Now more and more people are opening up for the idea that
yes,
you can become better.
I've noticed the change as well.
Yeah.
So, but not in Sweden so much.
Yeah. The problem
not
is,
yet.
like with Sweden or Denmark, there are so few people with Parkinson, so it's difficult for them to be in a group because there's not a lot.
No.
I also gave up Denmark as the only country to operate in because there's simply not enough people with Parkinson in Denmark, and Sweden is not that much bigger. And if people are about 80 maybe, then they don't have the energy to do something about it. So there's simply too few people in an age group where...
That's true.
Yeah, so, but when you start to speak English, then you can reach so many more people.
That's true.
Yeah.
But I have still the goal that I want to be free from meds.
Yeah.
That's my goal, but I'm not sure that I can make it. I'm not sure, but I want it.
Yeah.
Because you get very depend on your med.
Yeah.
It's very strong meds, so you can't just stop it because then you get really sick.
Yeah.
So
I think that you can do the same. This was just my coach advice, that you could make a burning platform one more time and give yourself 2 years. It's a good recipe. Say, why is that needed? Why do you need it? And then
that's
you do the same work once more. Because that was what you succeeded. I give myself 2 years. I read everything. I do everything. I have it as first choice in the first priority in my life. So that's sort of the recipe. And maybe I would guess the last 2 years, you have started having other things as a first priority because you enjoy life and do things around this. Yeah. And maybe I can help you to dig down. That's what I'm very good at digging down the things, what's left, what's going on here. So I think the only thing that's changed is that your focus is now on all the things that normal people do.
Oh, yes.
Is there anything, a last thing you want, a good advice you want to give to people with Parkinson's or other chronic disease?
Yes, it's worth doing the work, I mean, because if you feel better, it comes with joy and energy, and it's worth the work you do initially. I mean, but the hard work you do, it's very much worth it later. And it takes time. You have to have patience. It takes time. It's not a quick fix. I mean, it's not like taking a pill or I tried this for a week. You have to be dedicated, but it's worth it. I mean, I got my life back.
So how long time, you said, gave yourself this 2 years limit, and as I heard that you need to see some positive proof.
Just some proof.
So how long did it take before you saw some proof?
3 months.
3 months. And from the 3 months, when were you sort of, now I can hear you have a few symptoms left, but when were you sort of satisfied?
after 2 years.
After 2 years.
Yes.
And that's what I find as well, that you need to get knowledge about how to make the transition. Of course, we are all different. Someone are not hit as hard, but it must be your first priority in months or years.
Yes, and if you start with the mind shift.
You told us that you started to think positive. What exactly was it? Because you can also say, okay, I have Parkinson, but I just feel positive and don't care about the symptoms. I just get the best out of my life, even I have a lot of symptoms. So where was your focus in positivity? It was not accepting the symptoms.
It was like I felt that I was trapped in Parkinson. I felt that I wanted to live and be healthy. I was worth it. I mean, I just felt it that I was inside me, that it was a feeling that I wanted to do it for myself.
You were positive with that it was possible to get out of this. It was possible to make the arm swing. It was possible to get back your walking.
I felt so much. I was proud that I wanted to do everything in my power to get well again. I was proud of that. And I liked that I wanted to live. I mean, I really wanted to live. I wanted so much. So I was able to do all the things I done.
And use all the time.
It was not difficult to do it. It was almost fun to do all the exercise, and it was.
Yeah.
And the slightest improvement, I was so filled of joy. So it was quite fun to do that.
You celebrated yourself and
Yes,
your successes.
yes, very much for myself.
Because I hear a lot of people being positive in regard to, yeah, I've got this diagnosed, I've got these symptoms, then I can do nothing about that. Then I'm just positive around the world, but not. You were positive around your what you did.
I found myself suddenly, and the willpower I had, and I understand that it's going to take me quite a bit anyway, because it was so strong. I found my strength. I don't know. I was happy to find myself.
And when you say finding yourself, I know I ask you some difficult question, but have you ever in your life felt yourself?
Yes, when I was young, 7, 8 years.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. But it stopped somewhere.
Yeah.
So I couldn't be myself.
So now a trauma pushed you out of this being yourself, your authentic.
I was afraid and I couldn't express myself, or I was downsizing me for a long period of time, and I was afraid of things. I was afraid and I felt alone. Abandoned, you can say. Abandoned is a good word. And then I was afraid. I've been very stressed in my life for that. Very stressed, high stress levels, I think.
All your traumas came after you were 7 years old.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think 9.
There are some people that get trauma when they are younger and probably even cannot remember it.
Yes.
Then it can be problematic, but you could remember your traumas.
Yes. And I didn't do anything special. I just took it away from my brain in a way. I don't know how I did it, but I did it. But it took 2 years. So it was not easy, because I thought, when I'm not crying anymore, thinking about it, it's okay. And now I'm not crying about it. I can talk about it and it don't impact me at all.
So was it one trauma or several traumas?
I can say it started with one trauma, and then I did other things perhaps that I shouldn't have done if I didn't have the trauma. So it was
Building
things
on
that
top of,
followed after the
yeah.
trauma. I was not my best friend either. I lost myself in a
So
way.
the first trauma shaped your personality, so
Yes.
you get into other problems.
Yes. So I got into other problems.
That's unique for everyone
Yes.
of us with trauma, but what we can tell other people is that we have traumas, and these traumas influence their
Yes.
life. And I add to this story that I call it have body memories, is to say that traumas come in all sizes, as
Yes.
huge with death, accidents, and violence, abuse, but they also come in a smaller size where you are bullied, you are being yelled at, you are being neglected, and it can be even smaller things that people put their back to you and you are feel alone. So they come in all sizes, and that's why I use the word body memory.
So I don't feel regret or something. It happened in my life. Now I have so much energy. I'm 100% myself. I do what I like just, and I say no to things I don't like. It's very easy, everything. Everything is so easy. A lot of energy now.
I can hear that your Parkinson symptoms was really bad in the start.
Yes,
So
really.
other maybe have a small tremor or something. What is a good advice? They got the diagnosis, they have hear the terrible story that you can only become worse and worse, and that's doctors and neurologists and maybe even your friends that are telling you that. What advice can you give? Because it's sort of a lonely path to walk to become better. So what is your advice to people?
I think the one that has been better or succeeded in some way to reduce Parkinson's system should talk about it more. I think just talk about it, and then the rest will follow. I think there are a lot of people wanted to be better, but they don't have a clue how.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to concentrate on diet and supplement. I'm so tired of that because that's the only thing they talk about. And that's a quick fix. You can buy it, I mean, and you try it. But I think that's not the solution. If there were about diet, we should have so many healthy people around us now. But everyone talking just about supplement and diets. It's a bit harder work, but it's worth it. And if you just go out and be a good example, perhaps it will spread.
What do you think that I have created a Facebook group that you recently joined, that there's a whole group where the subject is that you can become better via stress reduction. How does that feel? You have only been part of it a few weeks, but how does that feel?
It gives you hope on the future. I mean, if you have hope, that's everything. If you don't have hope, you started to shut down the system. I mean,
Yeah.
now if you have hope, that's the only thing you need, because then you can try something and perhaps you get a little bit better and it just continue.
We're trying to build a community to collect people with these alternative thoughts. So you're not alone, and so you can hear other people's opinions around this subject.
Spread the information, just.
Yeah.
That's the most important, I think.
Yes, good. And that's why we're having this interview, so we can spread the good news, and hopefully soon the common knowledge will change from you can do nothing and only be worse and worse, and to you can do a lot and become better and better.
Yes.
I think I will say thank you for this interview, and hope that people around the world go into these thoughts and feel, are your symptoms varying? Then there might be a reason for why you one day have more symptoms and one day have less symptoms. And then be curious, find out what's this all about.